I took it home. I used it as a safe space to have an outlet, like a creative outlet, if you will. And so my son and I would make stuff. I'd bring it to work. People would tell me about it. I started
Mm.
like ramping up and getting really good. And then COVID happened. And so long story short, built this like incredible business. And then I had to get rid
Mm.
of it.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Podcast, where we explore the intersections of motherhood and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, and in each episode, we're diving into mindset, emotional regulation, and the real stories of mom entrepreneurs navigating both business and family life. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to another episode on Mindset Mastery with yours truly, Julissa Edwards. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jewell Jams. She has a beautiful story of success that has not been linear. And it is so important to showcase stories like this because a lot of us sometimes get defeated when things don't go our way or when we think that we are moving in strides of failure. And that is simply just not the case. She expresses so much insight. So a little bit of her story is that she was a single mom who had a mortgage back in 2016, and means were tight. So then she was able to begin a business, her business, and it was heavily increasing and exploding right until COVID hit. Then she had to close her doors and reopen them again back in 2023 when she decided to put herself out there and join um, a TV game show where entrepreneurs learn and compete in the Blox. You guys have may heard about that. I also was casted on the show for season 13, and on day one of filming, her LC actually became official. It's a beautiful story. She's also a mother of three. She has a 12, a 2, and an 8-year-old. It was a beautiful conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy. How are you feeling this morning coming onto the podcast? How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jaleesa. Thank you so much for having me here. Like, this is an honor to be even part of this. So I'm feeling good, feeling good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great. I slept in today. I very much needed it. And so, yeah, I'm having a good morning. So, Jewel, I know that a part of your story is that you began a business and then paused it and then reopened it again, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So I always wanted to be a chef since I was like 6 years old. So I did all the things. Serendipity happened the way that it did. I went to culinary school and became a chef. And then I was
Mm.
blessed with my first baby boy. And his dad was fine. He's a good dude, I guess. I mean, we're still friends. But in 2016, I was in a not so great relationship and kind of in that DV space, if you will. And I
Okay.
always looked for places or things to do with my son to get out of the house. So
Mm.
the thing that we did is we went blackberry picking. So
Mm.
we picked, I think it was like 6 pounds of blackberries. Like,
Wow.
yeah, an erroneous amount. uh, and I have an eccentric aunt that just likes to buy stuff randomly. And so she bought a canning set and she's like, "Do you want this?" I was like, "Oh, okay." So I took it home. I used it as a safe space to have an outlet, like a creative outlet, if you will. And so my son and I would make stuff. I'd bring it to work. People would tell me about it. I started
Mm.
like ramping up and getting really good. And then COVID happened. And so long story short, built this like incredible business. And then I had to get rid
Mm.
of it. So I was furloughed from my job, and furloughs like basically being fired, but not fired. Essentially, they're like,
Mhm.
here, go figure out something else. And so I started sacking groceries because that's what they told us to do. They said, go sack groceries for $14 an hour and we'll bring you back when we can. And so I had to make a really tough choice because by that point, I'd gotten rid of that domestic violent person. And so I was a
Mm.
single mom with a mortgage. And I was like, well, what am I going to do?
Mm.
So I sold all of my equipment, I closed my business, and then you know, call it whatever you want to call it, fate, serendipity, whatever. There was a little pop up on my Instagram about being part of a TV show for entrepreneurs. And
Yeah.
yeah.
For those of you that don't know, that's how Jewel and I connected. I don't know her personally, but the Blox, the show that I was on, if you've been following me, you know that we were on this beautiful thing. I was a part of season 13. It's a show for entrepreneurship, kind of like mastermind style, where you learn a lot of things, and it's a competitive reality TV show. And so Jewel was a part of that too. What season were you on?
14. So I was right after
Oh,
you.
right after me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so yeah, so you found this post and then.
So I was 7 months pregnant with my third baby. And because I met my
Mm.
wonderful husband in the grocery store industry. And I was like, well, I haven't really like I closed my business. Like I don't really have a business now, but people ask me for jam from time to time. So I was like, well, all right, whatever. So I entered it, went through the
Mm.
process, and then like you, like we're one of the lucky ones that got cast. So that's when I had the oh crap moment of, well, I better have an actual legitimate business to go to this thing. I don't know what this is.
Mm.
So then fast forward to March 19th of this year, and that was our first day of shooting and also the day that my LLC came through from the state. So we have just been going like balls to the wall since then.
I love that.
It's crazy, but yeah, that's kind of how that gap happened and came back.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned that I love this story because I think people think of success as linear, and we know that is most definitely not the case. There are ups and downs, back and forth, you name it. And so I always I feel and I always teach that, business is really a beautiful road of self-discovery. What you're really made out of, not only that in like a mean, like hustler kind of way, but just like what are the wounds that show up that keep you from doing what you really want to do? And it's not bad, it's just good insight, right? Things are happening, life is lifing, and business gets to be a really good a mirror of what that is for us. So I read earlier that you started, you paused, you had to survive, right? Take care of you and your baby boy, all the things. And so later on you meet your now husband, correct?
Yes.
In a grocery store, is that what you said? Or the grocery business?
Well, in the grocery business during COVID. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, okay. Oh, because you were still selling your jams and jellies.
So I was working for Jack Stack Barbecue, which is like this amazing, also a startup here in Kansas City, but it's huge, so people don't think of it as a startup. I'd worked there for 7 years. I loved my job, loved my job. You know, it was a litany of things, a jewel of all trades, if you will. And when they
Mm.
furloughed us, they partnered with a local grocery store chain. And so the idea was that we would go and like literally like sack groceries, which is a very humbling experience if you've never done it before. I mean, people treat you how they do. But my
Mm.
husband had been in the grocery industry for 18 plus years or something at that point. And
Mm.
my third day working there, I went to my boss and I said, listen, I can't work for $12 an hour. Like, you got to pay me or I'm going to leave. And he's like, okay. And I was like, oh, I've never done anything that ballsy in my life. I was like, what?
Mm.
Okay. So he made me part of their management team. I went through all of that. And then, like a month or so later, so this was March of 2020. Yeah, I want to say like May of 2020. Here he comes. He's 6'7". I'm 5'2" on a good day. So I I wasn't looking for anything. And he was in a relationship, and I was like, men suck. I hate them. I can do this on my own. I am a power woman, whatever. Um,
Mhm.
And then, how things happen, how they unfold. We were in, the height of the pandemic when people were fist fighting for toilet paper. Yes, that's true. In the aisles.
What a crazy
So
time.
it was crazy. But yeah, so we, as things do, as the Hallmark stories tell you, like we fell in love and yeah, that's where I met him. He and I are opposite in probably 85% of everything, but we just jive, you know? I don't know.
hmm hmm Yeah, beautiful. So I bring up your husband because he's now your partner in business, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and that makes sense as to why he could be so helpful having the background that he does and all of that jam. So, oh, pun intended. That was not intended, but it came out that way. Um, so tell us about that, girly. So because I love your story of starting, pausing, doing it again. Like there's no linear way to success. And it seems to be, wow, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. I was gonna say it seems to be so much more fruitful this way. But seriously, right? Because now you have a partner who's supportive. You shared a little bit about your background within your romantic relationships and how that wasn't the best. And now it seems like, I don't know what you believe in. I always say God, source, universe, presenting you with something wonderful, a great partner, and also a business partner. So how has it been juggling being a mom, running a business with your partner? I'm thinking about all things like motherhood, business, but also introducing this new person into your family unit, and how that's all been meshing together for you.
Well, my mom always says, like, if God has a plan for your life, hold on to the end of it like a tail of a kite because it's going to take you anywhere, like
Mm,
you never know what you're going to be up with. So, it has been, challenging, but in the best of ways. So by the time we had gotten together, my son was 9. So 9 is such a delicate age because they're in that really weird space of being like independent, but also they really still need their parents like a lot, and you want to be able to give them that creative license to be a little bit on their own, but not on their own, because they can't be yet, and
yeah.
introducing this new person really was good as far as bringing a role model into there because he's such a great dude. But also it made it challenging too because my son was the only man in my life for a while, and then
Mm,
here's this guy. So and then right after that, I mean, I popped out 2 babies. So the challenge of having that,
lots of changes.
yeah, yeah. So and there's an age gap between, it's about 10-year age gap.
Yeah. Mm,
So, yeah, navigating the family dynamic was definitely different because I went from being head of household to like co-head of household. And
hmm
thankfully, one of the things we do agree on a lot is our parenting style and like how to
Same.
raise, functional humans and loving, compassionate kids, and but also like be smart and be on top of your stuff, whatever. Um, so that was definitely challenging. And then of course, to make things crazier, I went ahead and started in real estate in I think it was March of 2022. And I gave
Mm.
that I gave that the good college try for a couple of years. And that was also one of those eye-opening things where I'm like, wow, people are really mean. Like I knew that
Mm.
from the restaurant industry and the grocery industry, but then when I went into real estate, I was like, wow, wow. But yeah,
In
so
what
then
ways? What do you mean by that? Like, how were people mean?
I think that the expectation in buying and selling houses is either inflated by TV or they don't quite understand what they're getting into. Like for most people, it is the most significant purchase that you ever have in your
Hmm
entire life. And
Right. Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
like when I was a buyer's agent, my job is to kind of coach them through like these are the steps, these are the things that are going to happen, and really be prepared for that, and like these are the financial things that you're going to come up with, and et cetera, and coach them through that before we even go and look at houses. But most people are just like, yeah, 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 whatever, I just want to buy a house. And you're like, okay, well, like what
Mm.
does that look like? And of course, during that period with the housing shortage, like there are houses that people are buying for, like, I wouldn't put my cat in this house, but they need a house, so they just buy it. And then after they've been there for a little bit, they're like, wait, I don't like this. And it's like, well, dude, you already went through all the processes, you signed all the paperwork. Like, I can hold your hand and read every line by line for you, but that's not what we had talked about. So people would get really upset. And not just with me, like, I mean, I was very fortunate. I only had like a couple of clients that were upset, but there's some horror stories where
Mm.
at some point, yes, it's on the agent, but on some point it's on you. Cause you're the one that wants to buy this house. And so it was very eye-opening in that regard, and holding somebody's like life savings in your hands like that is such a
Mm.
careful thing. You have to be very delicate, and um yeah, so it was challenging. Like, I enjoyed like helping people through the process, and I do like the hand holding part. Like, I like the teaching and the like, hey, like, make sure that you clean out your lint trap once a month. Like, make sure you water your foundation during the summer. Here are these different things that can help mitigate risk that you don't always learn. So yeah, but it was eye-opening for sure.
Mm. I think, I mean, that's a good lesson in business and life overall, that your service is so much more complex than just the thing that you're doing, but because it affects so many different aspects of people's lives. And like, I'm thinking about your two vast differences of like real estate versus your jams. It's a completely different experience, but both, I'm sure, come with challenges. And I think as business owners, no, I know, can never be prepared for when you have that first client that is just really upset with your services, or weren't an aligned fit, and what they thought they were going to get something and they didn't get that. And so, you have the mindset of like, yes, customer's always right, I'm going to do my best to make this right and things of that sort. But you also just learn lessons. Like, I know for me in particular, I remember in the beginning of my business, so I run masterminds, like large cohorts for like intended learnings about set topics around mindset, healing, etc., trauma work. And I remember during the peak of COVID, it was hot and heavy. A lot of people wanted to do self-help and things of that sort. So my cohorts were like anywhere from 8 to 12 people, which is a decent amount of people in one group, talking about intimate things. And so I remember signing up a lot of people and feeling very grateful, and learning on the energetic side of things. I was like, like, is this person really going to be a good fit for this group? Like, really doing my due diligence to make sure that everybody would be cohesive, would be a good learning group together. And seeing some hesitations, but believing the young entrepreneur that I was, and just being a helpful person that, like, it's okay. It'll be great. Like, they'll be great. And I don't think I did anything wrong per se in terms of like morality or integrity, but in hindsight, looking back, those little nudges of like, should I take this person in for this particular group? Like, I am much more discerning now when I'm forming masterminds and groups of like who I'm letting in. Because of those experiences where some people felt that like I didn't vibe with the rest of the group, this wasn't for me, kind of thing. And so I'm just sharing because in business, you have to fail to learn.
Yeah.
Um, and for you, Jewel, maybe, I don't know, you tell me, but um, when you told me the beautiful story about your son and collecting berries, because that was such a hard time in your life and that was kind of your escape, right? That's such a beautiful story to now see it full circle, and I want to learn more about it, but having that support of your now husband and having a whole family and things of that sort, like, what a big difference. Like, for me, that is what I call like a soulful business. There's so much depth into what it is as to why you're doing it. And I think will produce so much more longevity, success, passion, all of that purpose. Versus, I don't know where real estate lied for you, but maybe it wasn't that deep of a connection, which is maybe why I didn't go so far. What do you think?
So as we talked before, I'm a firm believer that, like, you're put in a place because of something. Like regardless, like I don't necessarily say manifest destiny or like serendipity for everything, but like I feel like I was put in real estate not necessarily to be successful in real estate, but for the relationships that I built through it. So on my season,
Mm,
one of our judges was Jenny Hines, and she's a I don't know how she does it. She's an insane entrepreneur. Like she's got like a fashion line, she's a real estate broker. Um I could just go into a whole litany of things that she's accomplished, and she is one of my
mhm.
heroes. And I met her on the blocks. So I feel
Mm.
like
Did you know her before the blocks? Like, did you know
no,
of her before the block? Okay, okay. But she's just a great
no,
person. Yeah. Yeah.
she's amazing. And I remember when she came
Mhm.
out on stage as a judge, I was like, she looks like she'd be fun. But it wasn't like wow, she's amazing because I didn't know anything about her. One day I was lucky enough to be like for some reason they split us off into like groups of stuff, and it was
Mhm.
suggested like real estate people went and go have lunch together today and like get to know each other.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I'm a real estate person. Oh, there's like 1,000 million of us. There's a ton of them. So I went and sat at this table, and we all had like a little powwow because market's crazy. Well, then
Mm.
either later that day or the next day, I was in a pod with her, and we did like an off-camera, like kumbaya sharing session, and I had like an emotional break about like my
Mm.
life. And we've stayed in contact since then, and she is one of the most dear people to my heart. And I feel like I wouldn't have met her had I not been in real estate.
Mm. I
Kind of
love that.
the
Oh, I
trajectory of
love
our
that.
business. So it was
Yes.
yeah. So not necessarily to be part of that, but and then also she got me hooked up with this TV show called The American Dream, where you can be like a host for your city and talk about how awesome your city is.
That's so
And
cool.
it is, it's a cool TV show. And I there was a girl in my brokerage who's also on there, and they limit it to the amount of people in the area. It's like five. And I was like, well, that's weird. So she and I became fast friends, and her name's Tanya, and I again, like if I hadn't met Jenny, who got me on that TV show, who I connected with this lady that's one in five in her metro, who happened to be in my brokerage, like I feel like it's a little steps.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I love that. And so I think this is a good lesson too, because when you're trying anything in life, you go through so many ups and downs and curves, and you might think it's not like either you're lost or you're not going in the right direction. But I am a believer of what you're saying as well. I think everything happens for a reason, and every opportunity, chapter in your life is a learning moment. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like amazing that had you not tried real estate, you wouldn't have been in that group at the blocks and met those amazing people that have been, it looks like, beautiful connections and networkings for you. So I love that. Okay, so tell me more about your business now. And how are you and your husband doing? What are some challenges that you've been facing, if any? How has it been going?
so my husband is a very can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. My husband's a very ambitious person. And when my second day on the blocks, I called him, I was like, babe, I think this is what our life should be. I think we should do this. And instead of the chiding, like, yeah, whatever, he was like, okay. And I was like, okay, cool. So how do we get there? Well, I'd already done all of the legal paperwork, but when I had started my business before, my biggest challenge was to create a space for the jams and jellies. So if I back up, I had a professor from college who had reached out to me because he had a bakery, and he was like, "Hey, can you make some jams to put in my bakery?" And I was like, "Sure, you're my professor, of course." So I made some. State of Kansas came in, and they were like, "Sure, what are these? Where are these made?" Like, we don't have we don't really have cottage law here, but once you like cross over into the retail space, there's you've got to get licensed, approved, make sure you have inspections, all the things. So I got a cease and desist letter from the state that said, hey, if you don't start making this in a licensed facility, then you're going to get charged $500 a day
Oh
or
my God.
closed down. And I was at the time, the single mom with the mortgage. And I was like, okay. So I tried to work it out with my former professor. He used to have a stove, and then he negated that and had a hot plate. And I do water bath canning. So you cannot water bath can with a hot plate. I tried. It is difficult to make sure your jam is hot and that the jars are sterilized, and it's a whole process. Uh, so there was that challenge. And what I had found is, okay, what is my next step? If I can't do it there, where else can I do it? So I talked to a bunch of people in the food service community here, because it's, even though Kansas City is getting bigger, it's still very small as far as food service people. So they said, well, why don't you try like going to an incubation kitchen, or like going to a commissary, and you can basically, share kitchen space, pay a monthly fee, and then you can create your product. Well, the monthly fee was 200
Okay.
bucks a month. 200 bucks a month doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot of money to me, and I couldn't swing that. So my dad and my mom are amazing humans. My dad knows how to build anything, really. Like, he's one of those people who can like see it. So I talked to the fire marshal, and he said, there's no reason why you can't build it in your basement. I said, oh,
Oh,
okay. So I said, bet, let's do that. My dad and my mom and I like kind of source all kinds of different things. I go to auctions to find the stainless steel tables. Like, my dad at the time worked at Lowe's, so he had this little 10% discount, so we could, get
perfect.
supplies, restore. I mean, we bootstrapped the heck out of this thing, and I had
I love that.
30 days. So we got everything good. We linked up with the state of Kansas. They came out, they inspected everything. They told me all the things that had to be on my label. So I had taken those steps. When I tore down the kitchen, when I came back from the Blox, that was our first order of business. Because I was like, well, we want to make sure that we're compliant, hit the ground running as soon as we come back. So my ambitious husband at the time was coincidentally working for Lowe's. So he started getting supplies to my dad, and we built a new kitchen out of a completely different space in the basement. And so having him like with the same vision, like, hey, we're going to go in the same direction. He has more of an analytical mind than I do. So he's like, okay, these are the steps that we can take. This is how we're going to get there. And I just, we worked really well to make sure that we have the same common goal. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is an amazing story of so much adversity and pressure and financial scares, right? Of like, how the hell am I going to be able to do this? And I love that your family was so supportive. Um, Something I teach a lot to mothers in business is that we can't do this alone
Yeah.
at all. Like, we cannot do this alone. Like, I would not be able to do the things that I do had it not been for my support, my team, all of that. And I think that as entrepreneurs, moms or not, we tend to think that, like, the solo business mentality, which it is sometimes, like, you are running things by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but just like in life, like this, I've also learned just from healing and helping other people heal immensely, like in their realms of, um, depression, anxiety, trauma, anything of that sort. Human beings are usually in greater seasons of stress when they feel alone, right? And so it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because I know that a lot of us, myself included, at many different points of my life, we feel embarrassed to ask for help or give the notion that we don't have it all together and things of that sort. And the reality is that nobody does, right? Nobody does. And the more honest we can be with ourselves to then be honest with others, um, and I shared this on my podcast a while ago, but like in 20, what are we, 2024, like 2022, I went through such a hard time financially within the business, and like I felt like a fraud. I was like, here I was who had something super successful, and now, like, even though I was still making impact financially, I was in a lot of debt. And it happens, right? Ups and downs of business. I had to really learn to let my ego detach of what this meant for me, for everybody else. And it's like, this is a part of life. And once I learned to do that, it was hard for me because money has been such a big thing in my life, which I think it is for so many people. You attain your worth to it, you attain your success to it, all of these things. And so, long story short, I love your story because your back was up against the wall and you saw it through. And what I'm hearing most is because of the support that was given to you during that time. Hey, mamas, let me ask you this. Do you dream of starting your own business but feel overwhelmed by where to begin? You're not alone, and that's exactly why I created our free WhatsApp group, Balancing Business and Babies, a safe space for moms like you who are ready to take that first step towards entrepreneurship while balancing the beautiful chaos of motherhood. Inside, you'll find daily mindset shifts and tips, encouragement from women on the same journey, and bi weekly free community calls. Whether you are still in the dreaming phase or ready to take action, this group is here to support you every step of the way. And the best part? It's totally free. Just click the link in the show notes below to join. Mama, your dreams are very much possible, and you don't have to do it alone. Let's build your vision together, and I'll see you in the group inside. Tell me more, girly, about because now you have three kiddos, right? You have your eldest who's 10. Is he 10?
He's 13.
He's 13 now. Okay, and how old are your two younger ones?
3, and our daughter will be a year old in December. So 10.
Oh my God. So cute. I have a 3 and a 2-year-old. So we have the two little ones are kind of similar in age. It's a
That's
lot. So
it's a
I
lot.
know you're so how tell me how that is working now with everything like your son being an older sibling and running the business. How is that all functioning for you guys?
Um, I think really well. My 13-year-old kind of blossomed over the last year. He's always been wicked smart. Like he's an all honors, like kind of like kid, and just, I mean, not to brag on my kid, but he's kind of awesome. And he
Amazing.
is a great friend. Like I got an email from his teacher the other day that was like, "Hey, just wanted to shout you out and tell you that your son
Oh.
had a new person in their class, and he like personally like scooted over, put his laptop next to him and said, 'Hey, you can like learn with me.'" Like he wasn't prompted to do that. He just did that. And he's just a super kind human. And he is also a hustler though. Like he's in the cologne market. I think it's a thing.
Oh,
Where he
okay.
will buy cologne like cheaper and then he sells it at school. So he's like a little entrepreneur.
Oh.
Uh, but my husband is, he's got the business degree and that background, and we are trying to teach him like how to do that kind of stuff and earn money from us through the business as opposed to just giving him an allowance, because they used to do an allowance like chores kind of thing. So we've used it as a nice teaching tool for him. And then with the little ones, I mean, right now my husband's with them upstairs so that I can be on this. So it's,
Yeah.
doing that support, that give and take of, hey, like he really likes the cooking aspect of it. So like I kind of came disenchanted with that when I came back, because I was like, oh, it's a labor intensive type of thing. And he's all like, oh, what about this flavor and this flavor? So he still has like the love of that part, where I have more of the love for the like this kind of stuff where
Business.
yeah, the business side. So I think as far as all of that is, you do your best to juggle it with the people around you. And I know a lot of people don't have family. I'm very fortunate to have like really good friends too, where we kind of trade off watching each other's kids. It's that whole like it takes a village mentality, and I know that that's
Yes.
fallen away, but I think it's so
Yeah.
important. It's so important for you as a mom. It's so important for your kids to be around other parenting styles, as long as they're not, damaging, but like, just learn from each other, grow from each other, use that community together. So even if you don't have like direct family, because a lot of my family, like really, I have my mom and dad and we have his mom, but everyone else, like they're in our lives, if you will, but they're not people that I could call and be like, oh my gosh, like, can you come over? Like, I need this. Whereas I have friends that are more like that, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So juggling
Absolutely.
all that, just give yourself grace and just try to do it as best you can every day. Yeah.
Yeah. We're two mamas making it work. My husband's downstairs with the kids right now, right? They're
Yeah.
eating a late breakfast.
Yep.
And so yeah, I love that. I think I agree with you. I think we have turned away from the village mentality that we used to have maybe a couple of decades ago. But I will say, at least for me, I'm originally from New York, but I moved to the Carolinas about 5 years ago. We were in North Carolina for five, and now we just moved to South Carolina. So maybe I only have a small perspective into this, but the communities here have been so phenomenal, that it kind of feels like we're going back in time, but in the best way possible,
Yeah.
right? Like I just saw on the Facebook group literally yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. A mom saying like, hey, I'd like to go start going back to work. Um, 2 days a week. Is any mom in a similar boat where we can nanny for each other? And she's like, I'll watch our kids 2 days a week. You could do that 2 days a week so that both of us are both able to start work part-time again. And I was like, wow, like that is genius,
Mhm.
right? Like you get the best of both worlds. And it's like, yeah, like why wouldn't I love it? I love it. I think this is kind of off topic, but on topic. Me moving from a hustle and bustle city like New York and then going to a more slower paced lifestyle in the South. I needed it. I loved it. But I will say, like, it's been challenging for me at times because I'm not used to it. And I also connect that to motherhood because before becoming a mom, I was busy bee doing all the things. And naturally, I wanted to bring that into motherhood unknowingly. And when you have a baby, it's just like, you don't have any other options but to slow down.
Yeah.
Right. And so here we are, mothers running businesses. And so it's like, how do you get the best of both worlds? For me personally, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or have similar sentiments, um, I think becoming a mother has made me a much better business owner. I began my business before you'd think so too. I want to hear about that because I began my business before becoming a mom. Shortly, it was only like a year, and then I got pregnant with my firstborn son, and it. I went through so much chaos. It was successful, my business in the first year, but it was so chaotic that when I had my baby, priority shifted greatly. It was like, well, I can't do this anymore. This now has to happen. And so the way of thinking just became very different. And now my eldest is 3.5, and I have completely changed my business strategy, the way that it runs, because it is based around my family's needs first and then the business, right? Do you align with that? Has that happened for you as well?
Yeah, and that's the other reason why I had to step away from real estate because it was too much. I mean, I
Yeah.
was with our son was 2 and I was pregnant, and then I was trying to manage real estate and get the jam business going. And then
Mm,
when the blocks happened, I was 5 months postpartum, and I struggled. That's a whole other topic about breastfeeding with all 3 of my kids. It was a challenge with all of them. I
me
was
too.
successful for like, oh, yeah, well, you understand. Like, I was successful for maybe a month or 2 with each kid, and you have that mom
Hmm.
guilt of like, uh,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and so then I had to really prioritize because I think maybe this is just me, but I go through like mommy rage, where you get so overwhelmed and so touched out that
Yes.
I just want to go to the bathroom by myself. And I know I'm going to miss that. I know like 5 or 10 years ago, I'm going to be like, you used to come to the bathroom with me. But now, in the moment,
It's a lot.
it was a lot. And I had to prioritize, like you said, like what I can't be everything to everyone. So what can I be that is going to be good for me in a mental health area? It was good to show up as a mom for my kids. And so I think that letting real estate fly away, managing my time so that I can be as present as possible for my kids while they're awake and doing stuff while they're asleep. I know that sacrifices my sleep, but hey, it's okay if I'm a nicer
Hmm.
mom. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that was really the thing to help me with getting to that point. So
Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. Yeah. I too struggle with postpartum rage. It was terrible for me, like a terrible experience where it's like nothing bad happened to my kids, but terrible feeling inside that I would get so bothered and overwhelmed and overstimulated of like, why can't I keep my shit together? You
Yeah.
know? And so yeah, you're just touched out, tapped out too much. And I, for me, everything is always a reflection of like healing and, you know, how much insight you have on who you are as a person. Like a lot of my family things were brought up. Like there's anger issues within my family. And so, like, you know, it was just like a lot of learning, having to sit still, figuring out what was best for me. And my family and I have recently decided to, I want to say it's temporary. I don't see us doing this for a long time, but right now I'm running my business. So the operational hours are from like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, so
Okay.
that I can spend the rest of the day with my kids. And it was really scary jump for me, but it's been working out. It's been like a month now doing this. And um, I think when you do anything, for me at least, like I get very passionate and excited. It's like, oh my God, this is a great idea and it's going to be great. And it is, it's a great idea. Like I have a good thing going right now. I work 4 hours in the morning, then I go to see my kids the rest of the day, and I love it. And now that we're in like week 4, I'm like, okay, what are the realities of this new change and what does this bring for us? And it's like, I'm exhausted. You know, like it is really, really nice seeing my clients. I have clients that like see me at like 6:30 in the morning and like it's phenomenal. Like it's a great way to start your day. I love all of that. The reality though is that my days are so much longer now where it's like if you don't get your ass to bed by 10 p.m., you're not going to be able to function. And for me, that's been a little hard because night times the kids go to bed at 8. It's like, what time do I have to do anything for myself?
Yeah.
Also spend time with my husband, like, you know, and so there's a lot of nights where it's like I'm pushing it to like 11 p.m. because we're watching a show or we're doing something. And so I'm sharing because nothing is ever perfect. And I'd still choose this life over anything else. I love the chapter that I'm in, but it's still hard,
Hmm.
you know? Um, so yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think a lot of moms are afraid of admitting that they have postpartum rage and like what does that even look like and what does that feel like? And there's just so much shame in motherhood in general. So um, thank you for sharing, girly. I want to ask at this time if there's anything else that you'd like to share. I always provide an opportunity for all my guests to have the opportunity for me to hold space for them. I'll provide guidance if I can, or just hold space. But something recently that's really been hard, whether it be business wise, mental health, marriage, mindset, spirituality, anything. Those are my backgrounds of what I help people with, you name it. Yeah, anything that comes to mind for you, Jewel.
I think I think the hardest thing for me is doing this the second time and knowing the steps I need to take to get to the direction that I need to go. And then just remembering I've only been doing this again for 8.5 months, but I want the success as if I had
Mm.
been doing it for that collective 4 years prior. So just remembering, hey, to give myself grace, take a step back, like look at all that you've accomplished. I mean, we're already in 2 stores. We've got like 3 different websites. We're
Yay,
like
congrats.
wedding stuff. Yeah, thank you. But just remembering, like, when you're a mom and you're trying to wear that hat, and if that's the only hat, like you're not trying to like do a business or do anything else, like that's a lot just by
It's a
itself.
hard enough on its own, yes.
So hard. So hard. And then, yeah, like you said, like taking space. One of the other girls I met on the blocks, her name is Courtney Heron, and she has a business called Empowerotica, and it's about like empowering yourself through like sexual healing and everything. She has 4 kids under the age of 6. Like she just had another,
Wow.
and she's also a hairstylist, and she also sings in like a cover rock band. I don't, again, one of the women that I'm like,
How?
how are you doing that? But she has this and I asked her for it because she has like a planner essentially, which not to like plug it, but it's great. But one of the main things in that planner is like, what are the 3 things you need to accomplish today? Just 3. And then what self-help like thing are you going to do? Like whether that's like go get a manicure or go take a hot bath or put on a face mask, whatever you're going to do, like make sure you carve that out and like just remember like, yeah, pat yourself on the back for how far you've come and the fact that you're showing up, even if you're just, I think the best piece of advice I ever got was from my former broker. He said, if you have a business, he's like, work on your business every day. And he's like, don't look at it as a daunting, like, oh my God, every day. It's like, if it's something that you truly love and you do it every day, whether that's having coffee with a client or if that's talking about a new product release, if it's like a 15-minute blurb on Instagram, just like researching products or whatever you're doing, like that still chalks up to your business. So, R&D, research and development. So, yeah, my challenge is I'm not, not as fast and as far as I want to be, but I am coming to the realization like that's just give myself grace and, it will come as it will. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Thank you for sharing. I think, tell me, I don't, this is the first time we're meeting and talking. Are you someone who usually gets things quickly? Are you a fast learner? Do you see success usually swiftly? And so this is a little bit of a different experience for you?
Yeah, my mom is a professor, and so when I was growing up, I was in all the things all the time. So it was like music,
Mm.
sports, and your grades better be high. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but she's very
Mhm.
ambitious, and she wanted the same ambition for me. So that kind of drive to overexert myself has always been a thing, and I haven't really I come to terms with it being an issue. I don't know if it's an issue, but I do get pretty neurotic and like, this has to all be done. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. But yeah, I kind of want things to be done quickly, swiftly, and correctly the first time. And so when it doesn't happen that way, I have to pivot, which is fine. But
Mhm.
yes, so like the overnight success thing, I understand is not a thing. But building
Mhm.
up momentum from before, building up momentum now, um, has been challenging. So, but in a good way. It's good for me to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I want to add like I'm that way too. I had a whole thing attached to this podcast, like it's like the on Instagram it's called the Healthy High Performers, where I post all of these things because usually in my business I tend to attract people that are highly ambitious, they want to do all the things, but it's costing their mental health negatively. And so it's like, what do we do now? We need to do things better this way or moving forward. And I know for me personally, my story is that, yeah, when I was younger, I mean, I was young and I was able to do a lot of things. And I kind of get off on that. Like I love doing like being in here and being over there. And so like when you're talking about that mom who has 4 kids and she's in a rock band and like I'm like, holy shit, that is a lot, but I'm sure it provides her with so much energy and life and also understanding that like everybody's different, right?
Right.
That might work for some people, for others people it definitely doesn't. And so I think just finding what works for you, but in the terms of like wanting to see success faster than what it is, um, a big turning point for me in my business and my growth as a person was for the first 2 years of my business, very much threw spaghetti on the wall and it just worked, right? Like
Right.
there was, and there's nothing wrong with that. There was no like real strategy. I was really good in my expertise. I didn't really know how to run a business per se, but I figured it out, right? And I was so used to not just in my business, but in my whole life in general, being like, oh, I'm gonna try something new and I'm gonna fucking kill it. Like it's gonna be great, right? And
Yeah.
it just always kind of worked out for me, whatever, right? And so when I began to mature as a mom, as a business owner, whereas like I can't just throw spaghetti at a wall anymore. It forced me to slow down, just like motherhood did. It forced me to like really observe and have research and look at data, look at numbers of like what's actually working and what's not. And it was really hard for me, even in my team. And this was back in 2022, where I had to switch a lot of things in my business. And I had a wonderful mentor at that time, and she was like, you need to stop like all the hot mess things that you're doing and just focus on building your team and building organization so that when you do get hot and heavy again, you have a much better foundation and structure. And I'll share that that was one of the most hardest things for me to do because everything in me wanted to just promote, promote, promote. I'm like, we need money in the door. Like, let's just keep, selling and doing. And she was like, we can set a time, some time for that, but your business needs to be worked on. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my business. And so now when I'm trying new things or I like to think about like a slingshot. It's like, okay, we're pulling back to be able to propel forward. And so obviously I don't know the insights of your business personally or anything of that sort, but I would imagine you're probably going through that same kind of era right now where it's like, okay, you're a smart cookie. It's why your son is probably so smart and people love him,
Oh,
right? Yeah, and it's like, okay, yes, I'm used to fast and success and that thrill, that excitement. There's something to that too, and that could also be. I know for me, it was a trauma response, right? Of like getting things quickly and wanting things to go fast, um, and then learning to be okay with stillness. I think so many of us struggle with that and the peace that stillness can actually provide when we learn to accept it, thrive in it, and just be. I'll share one more analogy that's been really helpful for me too. Is like we're in fall and winter, right? Everything becomes still and kind of dies, if you may. We're not, what's a good word for it? We are dormant at that time, right? And what you don't get to see is that underneath the soil, I'm looking at my backyard right now, there's a bunch of trees, all the soil is still doing so much for that tree to be able to come back in the spring and be so fruitful. All the organisms, the microbiomes that exist underneath the earth, they're still doing exactly what they have to do in this period of dormancy. So I hope that helps, girly. I relate to you 1000%. Um, but yeah, I hope that's a good perspective for what you're going through at this time.
it's amazing. Thank you so much. This connection has been fantastic. Thank you.
You're so welcome, girly. All right. Well, please tell us about your jams and how we can. I love jams, so I want to order one just to try it for me and my family. How can we find you? What is the best way to contact you? Should we want to try your products? Please let us know.
Awesome. Cool. So we are gluten-free and vegan. My mom as it's not quite celiac, so it's like just below that. So that's where the gluten-free like kind of stemmed from. And then I have friends who are vegan, and I was like, all these products that are out here taste kind of like crap, to be honest with you. So I wanted to create something that tasted good and that you didn't feel as bad about eating. Like, yes, there's still sugar in there. So we're working on a keto one, but we're not there yet. But yeah, we try our best to have seasonal varieties. So right now, our going into Thanksgiving, cranberry jalapeno is our most popular one. Uh,
Oh,
Amazing over cream cheese and crackers. I'm telling you, you have friends come over,
oh,
do. I just black cream cheese. Boom. Super easy, especially as a mom. And like everybody loves it. So yeah, you can find me. Let's see, I'm on jewelsjams.com, JAMZZ. That's our main website, but then we're also on Etsy, Wedding Wire, The Knot. Um, I think that's it. But yeah, it's a great thing. And you can also message me directly on Instagram or Facebook, same handles everywhere. If you ever like, Ma, do you still have this or that? We try to be like seasonal with our stuff. So as soon as we're out of it for the season until the next year. But yeah, what kind
okay,
of
beautiful.
jam do you like? I'll send you a sampler. You can see.
Okay, we love strawberry jam. I think we're pretty basic. Like to be frank, so I was like a hater of peanut butter and jelly until I got pregnant. And so now like I put it in my cottage cheese, things like that, to just give it some more flavor. So I am down to try any of your things. But I have a question for you because so you say because this I am just not an expert in this field whatsoever, but that is vegan and gluten free. Jams normally have gluten in it. Where how does that how does so like jams and syrups normally have gluten? I didn't know that.
Right. So, gluten can manifest in a bunch of different ways. It's in a lot of things. So are animal protein thickener things. So,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
So, the gluten part of it, I mean,
Mm,
most people, when you talk to them that make jam and jelly, they'll use like an apple-based pectin. But if you're allergic to apples, can't eat it, which that isn't a pretty big allergy too. Or they'll use like an arrowroot powder or cornstarch, or sometimes you have like a gluten thickener that you would use. It can also manifest
mm,
as like maltodextrin, and if you really want to go in like a weird rabbit hole, like see how
mm-hmm,
many have
mm-hmm.
gluten in them. And there's the argument that not all gluten is bad, and that's for those experts, but in our products, like
Mhm.
we do our best to do that. And then
Mm.
as far as the vegan part of it, gelatin is obviously derived from animals, but what some people probably don't know, and if this grosses you out, I apologize, most of the sugar in the United States is beet sugar, but cane sugar, like the ultra refined super white sugar, is refined through bone char. That's how it gets like to be white. So they like process it
Mm.
through animal bones. So we use Zolca morena.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
an imported sugar that's vegan. So still cane sugar, still like delicious, but yeah, but we keep the animal products out of it. So you know that, when you eat it, if that's a thing that bothers you, then yeah. So there, yeah, that's what we have,
I
vegan and
love that.
yeah.
Thank you for educating me on that. I definitely did not know that. And I'm definitely in a stage of my life now having kiddos of like now I'm being just like super aware of all the things that are in our food industry. And so I definitely learned just from what you shared. So thank you so much. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. You would just, I know for me, maybe I'm just oblivious, but I wouldn't think that jams would have like vegan or animal products. So I'm like, duh, of course it's the jelly. Like so there's probably pork in there for the most of part of it. But anywho, thank you. I would love some samples.
Cool.
Yeah, is the cranberry jalapeno one your bestseller right now?
That one right now. We have a spiced plum, which is like
Ooh.
think of like cinnamon and cardamom spices more than like spicy hot. That one's really good right now.
Mm.
We for our wedding line we did a strawberry prosecco, which sounds weird, but it's really good, and
Mm.
bourbon. So yeah.
I
Oh
love that.
yeah, cool.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jewel. This has been amazing to talk to you, get to know you better, and learn how you are managing it all. So thank you for being here today. I learned a lot. I know our listeners will too. And yes, any last thoughts or sentiments that you want to share before we close?
Just thank you so much for having me. And if you have an idea as a person who wants to be an entrepreneur, do it. We need whatever it is that you have to offer. You are amazing, and yes, you can do it. We are here for you. So, yeah.
I love that message. Thank you so much, girlie. We'll be in contact soon.
Okay,
Bye
cool.
for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me today on Mindset Mastery Podcast. I hope today's conversation inspired you to embrace your own journey of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship. Remember, it's all about mastering your mindset to create a life of success and fulfillment in both areas. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more incredible moms just like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and mastering your mindset.